Hello, and welcome to episode 20 of chapter 1. We're already off topic. 3 women, 1 podcast, not enough hours in the day to discuss all of the books. I'm Mary.
I'm Catherine.
Elizabeth.
And tonight we are going over chapters 21 through 40 of Alchemised.
Wait, I gotta take my cover off again.
Well, everyone can see the pretty cover on yours, because Elizabeth and I are out here just like stripping and naked in our books
I don't know
everywhere.
if I said this, but this would be a cool tattoo as well.
We should collect
about every book cover.
Elizabeth and I are gonna become like some tatted baddies. We're just gonna every book we read, we're gonna get a new one. Squamer's out here like, I'm gonna get a tattoo for every event, and we're like, I just want a tattoo for every book we read. Although it might be a whole mess.
It would be a whole mess. Could you imagine? Akatar,
start getting up the neck. My tampon. Before we start, what is everybody having tonight?
Okay, so I'm pulling a Mary. And I have a pot.
Cute.
It's so cute.
Yes. So, this is a pot, and I'm just doing different tea bags, so I can just pick whatever. But if you guys went to the Equinox or Olympus, specifically Olympus, but she also did the check-in at Equinox. So she was at both events, but she sold things at Olympus. Fred's Threads Crochet, which is actually Hillary, she made this for me for Christmas. So it's super
Shout
cute.
out to her. She's
She
so
is so
talented. Her stuff
good.
is so cool.
Super talented.
So cool.
And then I made Earl Grey cookies.
Ooh.
I can see.
Elizabeth doesn't have anything.
Mine has a mighty have fallen when I'm at home.
I almost had wine, and I was like, I'm gonna stick with the
So,
theme.
as you know, I'm not with Catherine. So
He said I. Did you say Reese's Pieces?
Yeah.
I love
but
it.
I have the mighty have fallen. You can tell I am pathetic without.
It's so you, though, that I love it so much.
It's very on brand for you. I love it. It just shows your personality.
So I am doing the old school Mr. Bingley. I'm doing the chamomile honey with a little milk in it. And she's so cozy. I needed something cozy. I made chocolate chip scones, so I'm going to tear one of those up here in a little bit.
James is currently at the store having to buy more chocolate chips. One thing we go through a lot in this house is chocolate chips, because it doesn't matter what kind of cookie I make, James would rather it be chocolate chip. It doesn't matter what kind of scone I make, he would rather it be chocolate chip.
I'll never forget
It doesn't matter
when
what kind of muffin I make, he would rather it be chocolate chip. Like, I'll make a muffin, and he'll be like, what kind is it? And I'll be like, it's, I don't know, blueberry or whatever. And he's like, you didn't do chocolate chip? Like, it doesn't. Like, with the cookies, he's like, with the Earl Grey ones, he's like, they're okay, but,
nothing chocolate chip.
And I'm like,
I'll never forget when we've discovered I did not like gingerbread. And he was like, thank God I can have chocolate chip cookies.
See, he doesn't like gingerbread cookies either. And I don't really think he even cares that much for sugar cookies. Like, he likes them, but he would much rather I just make chocolate chip cookies.
So we don't have a ton of time to go off topic tonight, because these episodes seem to be taking so long and there's so much to cover. But I'm super excited that y'all have discovered Pigeon Graham. It makes my day.
Pigeon Graham found me. I was like, what is this? Why is this in my feed?
You sent in the group chat, you were like, why is this happening to me? I don't know.
It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. I've never been so happy as when I'm on Pigeon Graham.
Like, the last guy reviews books. I'm like, what are you doing ranking pigeons? Why is this on my feed?
All right. I guess let's dive in. Okay, so we left off last week with Helena and Kaine learning that she was pregnant, and that it was pretty much a traumatic experience for both of them.
She lost it.
Fill that.
So then we dive back into chapter 21. Aaron gives her a book on pregnancy, which she becomes very attached to. And I kind of thought it was interesting because throughout, Farron kind of compared a lot to like a dragon hoarding his treasure, and there seems to be a lot of parallels. And for once, she kind of started doing that with the book. She was just like, my precious.
Like, it's something that I own.
I know.
It's a possession. And it's not red.
Which after all that trauma she went through, I'm sure she was just clutching to anything that was hers. But still. I did like that he gave her a book that was, I don't know.
Like a textbook, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was more clinical and academic. It wasn't just like, what to expect when you're expecting. So, which really works for her brain. And I think it tells you how much he kind of understands her. So Helena also makes Farron promise that no harm is going to come to the baby, which he does, but she doesn't really believe him. And so she immediately is like, I'm going to just off myself with some plants out of the garden. But as she's out there rooting around in the garden looking for something, all of the harmful plants have been dug up, which is evidenced by the loose soil. And again, it just shows you how much he understands her and knows how her brain works. Because he was already 5 steps ahead of her.
You gotta love him.
So Stroud comes back to check in and informs Farron that her memories might come back, which I don't know how you guys interpreted it, but I felt like he was sort of shocked and upset by that. Like he wasn't expecting to be told.
I can agree.
So, and then it's explained, and I actually really like this explanation that they used, or what remained of her resonance she'd been using all of that to protect those memories and keep that kind of bending that she had going on. The baby is now going to take up all of that energy she was using and all that resonance she was using that was for that. And so now the memories might come back because she doesn't have the energy to put into protecting those memories anymore. In the meantime, Helena's health is super struggling. And Farron starts like hovering and nursing her. He starts massaging her hands and feeding her broth. And
The hands.
I know
we're gonna get to that.
I know. But it was so cute. But I remembered it too because that did happen in Manacled. And I was like, oh, the hand massages.
This is the cutest thing I've ever.
And then when she's like barely conscious and he like holds her and hugs him to her or hugs her to him and begs her to stay. Just no. These sets of chapters, man, it was really
It was
good.
one of those like it's so good.
So chapter 21 sort of ends as her memories start flooding back, but she's just getting snippets. Then we go into part 2 of the book. And in chapter 22, we're now jumped back into 4 years prior. And we're going to spend the rest of our, this chunk of chapters in her past and what was happening leading to this. So at 4 years prior, we kind of go into Helena is attending a hibernal solstice. And she's there with, the rest of the members of the Eternal Flame and their families. And everyone's really trying to include her. But Helena's really kind of keeping her distance. She has promised Luke that she would do anything for him, and that sort of includes her staying away from him to help protect him from her reputation because she's not well loved because of her vivimancy.
I feel like I almost get more pissed on Helena's behalf than I did on Hermione's. I mean, now don't get me wrong, I got really pissed on Hermione's behalf too. But the reason why they don't like her and why they treat her so poorly, it just seems so overt to me. I don't know. It's like, go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine. So Luke seems really desperate to keep her close and senses sort of that widening distance that's happening between them. But he's also kind of rude to her. I don't know. He's like really short and gruff with her at times. I don't know if he's just frustrated.
There's also arrogance, just seeping through that man's pores.
Yes. I wanted to punch him a few times.
Mhm.
Yeah. And honestly, Soren too. Like, there's a time where I was like, oh, I feel like Soren kind of gets her more than some of the others. And then there's other times where I was like, you asshole. In fact, I'm pretty sure in my notes here that somewhere I just wrote asshole.
Well, I also like that he like gives her like these pointed looks, like you can't come with us, kind of like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Luke's like, please come, and then like she looks over and Soren's like looking at her like, not gonna happen. And
Turn around.
Wonder why her memory, like, she had a hard time remembering Soren, you know? And I'm like, why?
Yeah. We didn't get
well,
into
we're
this.
a lot
we
of
still
him.
have half the book left.
Yeah, we didn't.
So
we
there's-
have, I think we're still going to be in the past for like
A bit.
a minute.
For the next
Yeah.
round.
So something's gonna end up happening with Soren. It's got to.
Yeah. We have not seen the end of him, of like what's. So I feel like he's got to play a bigger role there, and we haven't seen it yet.
Do we say Crowther or Crowther? How do we say that?
I've been saying Crowther.
I've been saying Crowther too. Okay. Crowther? I don't care for him.
He only had one scene where he semi-redeemed himself.
He kind of came to her aid a little bit in front of the council. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, that time,
I don't care for him. Is he supposed to be kind of like to her the same way that like Mad Eye was in Manacled?
Who I
'Cause what
pictured,
it was
but I don't know.
it was Mad Eye and Lupin, right? In Manacled?
I think.
And I think so. I'd have to go back, but I feel like it was Mad Eye and Lupin. And so I'm kind of doing it as Crowther and Ilva, what's her name?
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I'm, because Ilva seems a little bit more, like, you know, sensitive to her.
Okay.
Not quite as, like, yeah, but not quite as, like, rough as Crowther is. And I also feel like Crowther is, like, a Snapey character, too. So I feel like he's kind of, like,
yeah, I don't know if
I
she
feel like he
combined
kind of
some
stands
characters.
in for two. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Because
like,
at first, immediately, I was like, oh, this is her Snape. And then, but the more it went into it, I was like, I kind of like Snape in Manacled, and I don't like Crowther at all.
and it just, I feel like, not to say that Mad Eye was great to Hermione, he wasn't, but I feel like he wasn't this awful. But it also has been over a year since I've read
Yeah.
Manacled.
And I read it, I think, almost a year before you guys did. So it was like, or
I'm
at least
like,
several
was
months.
Mad Eye
But
this bad? Like,
yeah, so there's like pieces of it that I'm not fully remembering, and I'm like, I don't remember. But like, also, I do not like him at all. So we
he's
go.
the worst.
So we go into chapter 23. We're getting to see her at the hospital. She's treating patients. She's surrounded by all of the dying and the injured, and basically her failure despite her best efforts. And you really start to feel how she's struggling to balance that. Then she is pulled from her work to give a numbers report to the council meeting, which there's sort of some back and forth with that because she hates to leave the hospital. She feels like she's most needed there. And you can definitely see that there's a lot of tension happening around her and what her position is and what she does. Because even though she's sort of invaluable to the movement, they also seem to really, like, they understand her value, but they also just don't like her.
And they act like she's not. Like,
Yes.
they act that she does. Like, it's
It's so
almost
frustrating.
Like,
I'm like,
it's almost like they
you
want
know
her
how
to
much she's helping,
regardless.
and yet you're just...
Gosh, the amount of fury, like, that I have for, like, every character in this book.
So then
Aside
she's-
from Farron.
During the meeting, she asked them to consider using necromancy, which, Elizabeth, I know you brought up in the last one. You were wondering what was going to be the equivalent, because before it was the use of the unforgivable curses in Manacled. And you were like, what could be that bad that they just ostracize her that way? And so it makes sense, yeah. So she's like, let's bring them back but she wants to use consent. So like the other side, they're just bringing people back from the dead left and right and using them. And she's like, the only way we're going to win this war is to basically be on the same playing field as them. And there's people willing to give their consent.
To basically use their
Because
bodies
they're
as
not-
a shield. You know?
Right. Because they're dead. They've passed on. They're not in those bodies anymore. Just let them do that. So the council, of course, freaks out. They view it as a traitorous act and thought that she would even suggest that. And
Something
that,
a Vivamancer would say.
right, and the desecration of life's natural cycle, which is their religious viewpoint of it. And she's actually threatened with arrest. They're like, we'll just chain her up right now and drag her out of here. But they kind of talk those people down and are like, well, she's just sort of she's kind of put off as being hysterical because she's been working too long, she's tired, she's seen all
covered in blood.
Yeah, she's yeah. So they just kind of make it a hysterical fit, which is a pretty classic thing, I think, especially in the time frame they're trying to put this in like the late 1700s of like what a woman would be classified as anyways.
Yeah. Typical.
And she's removed from the council. She's later pulled in, which there after that you do get this moment with Soren, and he seems almost that was one of the moments, huh?
Pretty chill.
Well, yeah, he seems like he was kind of likable in that moment. He seemed to understand where she was coming from. Like he knew it wasn't going to go well, but he seemed to understand where she was coming from. And so I didn't hate him in that moment.
If you are someone who's on the front lines fighting, there's no way you can't see that point. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like
Lila, way later.
No point where you like, wow, it'd be a lot easier if we could do that. You know?
Yeah. Lila, way later, makes several really good viewpoints on it that she discusses, which I think is helpful to see someone that has a brain and some common sense on the front lines. So she's later pulled into a private meeting with Ylva Holdfast and then Jan Crowther. They want her to be a contact for Kaine Farron, who has offered to spy. So you start to see where they knew each other previously, other than just school, which is all she could remember when we first opened the book. Is she's like, oh, he was like this guy I went to school with, but we didn't never talk. So you're starting to see these are all the missing memories. So she learns that other than to be pardoned for everything after the war, his only other request was for his contact to be her.
Which is still kind of odd.
So they're to meet twice weekly, and she's told there'll be no official record or acknowledgement, which we know will be the case. So, because we know how it ends.
They kept their promise.
They did. Assholes. So, then we get into chapter 24. Helena runs into Luke, who is excited after the last battle. He sees it as like this massive success and a shift in the war. And he reveals that they now know how to kill the Undying, which is by ripping out their lumithium. So we then get a little bit of backstory.
It's like annoyingly optimistic.
Yeah, like he's just like, oh, the tides have turned. Like, buddy.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We love a glass half full. That's not what I'm trying to say.
And you do need a morale boost in war. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
so,
that's
like,
not.
It can't
that's
all
not
be
what I'm
bad.
saying. But it's like you can't. He almost uses it as a high horse versus like actually trying to give a morale boost. I don't know. He's going through stuff too. I'm trying to be graceful, but still, go ahead.
We get the little bit of backstory about the use of Vivamancy and how she's using it to heal, and that it takes a toll. And so it's as she's healing these people, she is basically in her mind cheating death, and so she's giving them like basically a piece of herself, and so it's slowly taking her life or a time off of her life as she is working to save all these other people. And it also discusses the amulet that she wears, which is going to be important later, and that it's the Holdfast crest, which is made of gold and shaped like a sun, and it represents that the Holdfast always have gold as their alchemy, and that their sun god gifted them with like pyromancy, which is apparently pretty rare, and that they can wield fire, which is part of why they're always like the rulers. She meets with Crowther again privately and realizes that he doesn't actually believe in the cause at all. He just hates necromancers and wants to see them exterminated. So as long as the eternal flame is faithful to that cause, he's faithful to them. And I thought that was like an interesting backstory for Crowther. Because you...
Yes. I felt like that was more Snapey than anything else. Because, like, Snape, he didn't give two craps about anything with the Order of the Phoenix, but he had this weird loyalty to Lily. So, therefore, suddenly he's you know, and then he ends up, you know, he gains the respect for Dumbledore and all that, but, and then, like, for this guy, it's kind of the same thing. I don't care about any of this, but I hate necromancers, so.
It's going to tie back to Farron's mother in the cage. Because he's like, I just want to see them die. But I'm wondering if it's going to come back. Just saying.
It makes me, again, immediately dislike Crowther because his sole reason, you could almost be like, oh, okay, well, he has like a real reason for the cause. And while necromancy itself sounds terrible, you also are basically, you just have someone who's calling for the extermination of all of one type of person.
Because honestly, how is that different from the High Necromancer in a lot of ways? I mean,
Right. Like,
you know,
yeah.
A different.
other than the
It's
fact
the
that the
same.
High
Like, yeah,
Necromancer
kill
is a
the big
necromancer.
bad. I'm for that. Go after the big bad. But, like, also, it's like later we're going to see it in a less extent, but you see it in the others when she's at a council meeting and they're, like, drilling her on what the enemy is doing and that she should know. She must know because they all think the same. Everybody who's a Vivimancer thinks the same. And she's like, I absolutely do not.
Made
What pissed me off so bad.
mad.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So it's sort of that same thought process. Just,
Do you think
You
that
know?
she's just some wolf in sheep's clothing? Like, do you think that she just, like, just for kicks and giggles, stays up for like a bajillion hours,
Right, and
putting
it's like
all
the-
of your people back together? Like, what is wrong with you?
the amount she sacrificed. And it's like no one likes it. Neither side. The other side considers her like holdfast pet. And then the side she's on, just think of her as this like foreigner with these basically evil, sinful magic. Crowther also reveals at that time that Kaine showed his worth as a spy and gained their trust by giving them the first little bit of information, which is that information Luke had, which was he told them how to kill the Undying. And so you're like, oh, Luke, now you finally win a battle. You
did
see
it.
the tides could start to turn, and it was all Farron. So you're like, little cheer for Farron there.
We love Farron.
But Crowther wants Helena to use her Vivimancy, which Kaine doesn't know she has because she didn't come into it until sometime during the war. Like, she didn't come into it in school, so he wouldn't have been aware that she has it. He wants her to kind of secretly use it against him and make her create an obsession by like affecting his heart rate and his blood pressure and all these things to like create this falsified, almost like Pavlov's dog thing, like this falsified sense when she's around that he has these emotions, and so he'll become obsessed with her. She's like, I don't think it works that way.
And also, like, that's why I don't understand, like, later when he gets mad, he's like, what's happening is that there are, like, some feelings, but he's mad that those feelings aren't the result of Vivimancy, and I'm like, who freaking
Well, because
cares how you get there?
what he wanted obsession, because obsession is a weakness that can be controlled. Instead, what she was creating was loyalty and a relationship that was built on like trust. And he didn't want that, which we'll get into because of how he views Farron, which I think was probably, I don't know, maybe an accurate representation of how he viewed Farron, because he was like, now it's a bit of a liability.
Prefer the way that Helena did it, personally.
I do too. So he tells her to do anything. Heavy on the anything. Wink. That
But then it's like,
that Farron wants, and really manipulates her emotionally to agree to that, because he's very much like, oh, you said you'd do anything, do you just want to be a little like sheep, you know, and all this. He's the worst.
anytime that man talks, I'm like,
I mean, he just very much manipulated her
I
into it.
hate you so much.
But she does agree. So then we go into chapter 25. They meet up at this abandoned factory in the outpost, which is where electricity is created for the city. So it's pretty safe because neither side wants to see the city without electricity during the war. So it kind of gets left alone. It's like a neutral zone at this point in the war. So that's where their meetup spots are supposed to be. She meets Kaine. She's really surprised when she first meets him because he's super young looking and very boyish looking, and seems almost to be stuck in that 16-year-old version of himself. And
which gave her the creep.
yeah.
Right,
So when we meet him at the beginning, he's very Draco Malfoy, right? He's got the white hair. He's very lean, whatever, when we meet him at the very beginning of the book.
Like in part 1. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
But now when she's seeing him in the 16-year-old version of him, which he's not 16, but like he's kind of stuck in this, but he has dark hair and he's very like just boyish. I actually love the change of this into the lore because I thought it was like a really simple but effective way to show not only just like a physical change of what happens to him, but like that it's going to tie into how he starts to shift emotionally as well. And
processes, things like that, all of that changes.
Yeah. And so as a reader who might not have either read Manacled or have no idea kind of what's happening in this lore, you get more than you start to really see those changes in two forms, and they like mirror each other. So it's really cool. Is your dog misbehaving?
Yes. And then I tried to sit down and my back.
Oh.
Sitting in the standing. In the movie.
Just all of the movie.
I had a sledding accident, you guys.
The snowpocalypse really
Girl, ain't
hard.
nothing fixing this. You're gonna have to see it. Like, it's gnarly.
She sent me a picture. It's nasty, Bruce. Looks like someone just like shot her with a paintball gun or something.
It's so bad. And honestly, the night that it happened,
and it's like right where her kidney is.
It's so bad. It's like on my spine too. It's huge. My back is like swollen. Okay, I freaked out, and all night I would relive it in my head and panic and cry because I was like, what if I broke it? Because like it was really scary. Because like, listen, you guys, okay, my uncle is a paraplegic. He hasn't always been a paraplegic. It happened from like an accident. And so anything that has to do with the back, I just freak out. And so it happened. We sledded down this hill, and it's not really sleddable weather, okay? It's just ice. That's all it is. It's just you're just sledding down ice. And it's super fast. And the sled spun backwards. So I'm going down, and I'm looking up the hill, I'm flying backwards. I have Christopher in between my legs, so I can't roll off and bail off, okay? Because I don't have the leg movement. And then, so I was digging my heels in and my hands in to try and slow us down. Couldn't slow us down in time. Ended up ramming my back into the corner of a bench at the bottom of the hill at our playground. And I mean ramming into it. And ramming into it. And Christopher gets off, and he doesn't have any idea, like, in his mind, what a fun sledding experience. And so I am hysterical, because it hurts, and I'm crying. It was so bad. And James is on a sled at the top of the hill, and he's trying to clamber off of it, and it's icy, so he's also, like, falling. And then he's attempting to run down the hill. He has to pick me up. It is so bad, you guys. I cannot even describe to you, like, the level of pain. It was so horrible. And then that night, I ended up getting Noah's cold on top of it. So it's super awesome. Like, any sneezing, any coughing hurts. And also, like, laying in bed while you're supposed to be kind of semi-upright because of your nose being stopped up, but also don't really have a lot of options because of your back either. You're just laying there like, this is the worst. Thank you for that sidebar. We can continue on with Alchemist.
Favorite was that Noah was just like, Mommy, we don't have time for this. Like, you can't be both sick and injured.
Literally, Noah has been, at best, indifferent. Like, don't care, do it. And at worst, he's been, like, inconvenienced and honestly a little pissed. That, like, I'm not just
He's like, get it together, Mom.
yeah, he's like, I don't know what we're doing, but if you could like hop to it and get me whatever I want, that would be awesome. So he'll be like, he told me, was it today or yesterday? I can't remember. He was like, Mommy, it's daytime now, so your back doesn't hurt anymore.
Wow.
And I
I
was
wish it
like,
worked that way though, right? It's
I know, I
daytime.
was like, solid. Yeah, he's like, we've reset, okay? It's time to move on. And I'm like, if only. But anyway, sorry, Alchemized.
Alchemized. Okay. So she's meeting with Kaine. Kaine makes her promise to be his both then and then also after the war, which I thought was real cute.
I know, and I don't understand why. Like, I'm like, did you just always have like a weird obsession with her? Like, wait, like, or like interest in her? Like, that you, like, where did, anyway.
Well, I kind of go back and forth because I really want, in a way, I want him to be just like obsessed with her from the beginning. But he does sort of explain at some point. I may or may not have read ahead. So, like, this might not be in a set of chapters. But he does explain at some point that, like, basically he wanted to help. Like, he wanted to be a spy. But he needed to be believable in his requests. And he knew just being like, I want to be a spy wasn't enough. So he had to come up with like what he thought they would want to hear from him. So the pardon was an obvious one. And then he was like, okay, well, I can request her. And he knew that because she was a foreigner, like it was like that he could have been obsessed with her, but also like they would be willing to give her up.
Which is kind of sad.
Right. And so he knew it was like an achievable, easy thing, and they just agreed to it. And there are times reading this where I'm like, I don't think he was originally maybe super, like it wasn't like he was obsessed with her from the get-go. He was sort of just kind of using her as a stopgap, but then he develops feelings for her as we go along, and you really start to see it come about because he's not what people think he is, but then also she's not what people think she is, and they start to actually see each other, which it got me all up in my feels. But so
there are so many moments in this that I get all up in my feels, honestly.
Yeah.
He also says that he wants her willing, so he's not going to do anything with her unless she is. And he claims that she does not look very willing because she's kind of like in her head thinking, because Crowther's made it very much seem like he's just going to like want to screw her right off the bat. And so she's like, here I am, I'm just going in to get raped, you know? and he's like immediately like, I don't want any of that unless, that's something you would want to do, and you don't look like you want to do that. So good for him. But he does ask her.
No.
But he does ask her for a kiss. But he seems to do it almost to just kind of like knock her off balance a little bit. And so it was like kind of entertaining because Helena's like, okay, and she goes into it super clinical. She's like listening to his heart rate. But then in doing so, you realize that he's the one who becomes affected by the kiss. Like he did it kind of as I'm going to put her off balance and I'm going to, kind of mess with her. And then his heart rate changes several times during it. And then he kind of like jerks back. And so I'm like, oh, who's the one who got affected by it? But then he gives her the ring, which we talked about last week. We were like, these rings are going to come back up. And sure enough, they have, he has one and she's got one. And it's a symbol of their relationship.
Which is the ring, right?
Yes.
For part 1?
Yes.
I read that and I was like,
Yes.
And it's also a way he's done something to him. So that way that he can contact her whenever he needs to meet her outside their normal meetup times. So it's like 1 burn, come at some point, and then 2 burns, it's like urgent. But on the flip side, she's to never use the rings in reverse. She's to never contact him. And then he gives her an envelope, which is, interestingly enough, addressed to Aurelia. And it's for Crowther, and he lets her know that, you know, he already basically has a cipher. So you kind of get that it's not really for Aurelia. It's just, that's how he's faking these coded messages back and forth in case she gets caught. So then we get into chapter 26. She meets with Crowther to go over the meeting that she had with Kaine Farron, shows him the ring. Crowther says it must have come from his mother because it's silver, and she was a silver alchemist. She meets with Farron again. She's busy kind of playing with that magical lock and trying to learn how it works and how the resonance works with it. So she's a little distracted, and she gets yanked inside by Farron, and he presses her against a wall. And then and then he proceeds to paralyze her and then just like go into her mind. He explains to her that it's animacy, which she has not really heard anything of, and that he learned it from Bennett, who's like the mad scientist on the other side.
I don't think I would. I'll tell you what. Give
Bennett's
me the
like
high
a mad
necromancer
dude.
before you give me that guy.
Yeah.
Like, some of the stuff that he's doing, I'm like, oh, I don't want
Bennett, like, straight up is doing Nazi work. Like, he is doing
I was gonna
Nazi
say he's giving
work.
he's giving Nazi experiments just left
So
and right.
bad.
Just,
It's not. When you find out about the they were using people for the
For the chimeras.
yeah, did not
Thank
care
you.
for that.
He wants to train her to protect her thoughts and memories in case she is captured. And he claims that it's for his protection. But is it really? So then we go into chapter 26.
I mean, it's a bonus for sure.
It is. And I can't really tell because this early in, maybe it
might be.
is. But also it does help her too. So in chapter 27, Helena tells Crowther that Kaine is what he like. She explains what he's capable of. She's telling, she comes back, gives him recaps. He immediately removes her from all of the Eternal Flame meetings, and she's cut off from all information of what's happening with like Luke and the rest of that like core group. Which
It makes sense.
it's I mean, it feels crappy, but it does make sense. Farron, every time she goes back, he keeps testing her. And he's testing her repeatedly. Then he gives her laudanum for her headache.
Which she is like,
Yeah, because that's used sparingly on their side. They just don't have a lot of it. So she was pretty impressed that they had it. She asks him if, when he was like learning this and everything else, if this had happened to him. And he tells her that his training was rigorous. Which I want to say he also said in part 1. It felt familiar when he said it.
it did feel familiar.
So then you're starting to get a little snippet of that maybe Kaine's been through some shit too. Not just Helena. So
The trauma bonding began.
The trauma bond. My heart hurts for both of them.
They're the ultimate trauma bond.
Well, they're just, you have like two extremely broken people. But then as this goes on, it's like, they make each other whole.
The way you said that. Sorry, go ahead.
You complete.
They're each other's penguin.
So Helena has brought trainees at the hospital, which I think out of everything that's happened to her, that was like probably the most upsetting for her because that's where she feels the most valuable. And now she feels like that's being taken away from her because she very much realizes they're there to basically replace her. So they don't need her anymore.
Because isn't that like Matthias?
Oh yeah. Don't.
You know what I picture? I picture like, who's that old guy in the cartoon who's like mean? I don't remember.
Narrow it down there.
Anyway.
Which cartoon are we talking about?
I don't know. Anyway, when I find it, I'll send it to you. I just picture this like old, grumpy, like really hateful.
So
just
we have
warm my tea.
we have more meetings with Farron. He explains at some point that he was arranged to be married to Aurelia when he was 9, And he's only met her once, and he said that was enough, and he had no desire to ever see her again. And he jokes that he's just keeps writing her these letters, but they just keep going missing. So then you kind of get what he's doing with those letters and why they're addressed to Aurelia. So then you have
2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah. You get into chapter 28. Farron's training helps Helena realize that she can really do more with her mind than she realizes. She can control things within her own mind and starts playing around in her free time with pushing away thoughts and feelings, and even ones that are like she feels like are inhibiting her day-to-day stuff, like all the worries and stresses. She can just kind of shove those aside so she can focus and do her work. Luke tries to get her to help him with his pyromancy, both because she's good at kind of like the formula side of the magic, where he just always goes on feeling, which I understood what this was talking about, because this is going to feel very off topic, but it's actually kind of on topic. But like, it happens in horseback training and riding, and I'm sure it happens in sports and other things, but like when I would take lessons or ride with or clinic with trainers who were naturally talented, they were terrible teachers, because everything, they didn't know what they were doing. It just, they could do it.
Yeah.
They were very talented riders. They were very gifted, but they also often didn't have to work that hard at it. And they couldn't break down what they were doing. They couldn't break each part of their body down. They couldn't break emotion down. They could just do it. And so the best teachers that I ever came across and worked with were always the ones that had to work the hardest to learn, and probably weren't the most naturally talented, but that meant they had to like break down to themselves every single piece of a movement, how they worked, how the horse worked, and how to do those things. And so they were able to explain it really well. And I feel like that's kind of how Helena was. She wasn't born into this. Luke's just like, this has just been handed down to him, and so he's just like going off feelings and just doing stuff, but he can't.
He even says that
Yeah.
like he was like, I haven't used that formula stuff in forever, and
Yeah.
you know,
And
that
she's
was
like,
cool.
you know, that's just not how her brain works anyways. But also, like, she works really hard at everything. She breaks everything down. She views it from this like scientific academic standpoint. And so she's like, you could do that better.
What was funny though was when she asked him, she's like, what formula are you using? Literally in my head, I was like, he's not using a formula.
Same.
And part of me, like, it sounds really sexist to me, but I'm like, he's a man. He ain't following no instructions. He's just out here winging it.
As soon as she said that, I was like, you give this guy way too much credit.
He is not putting that much thought into this. He's just out there like, have it out.
He's up here, fire, fire, fire.
But she's actually excited to kind of help Luke, and she wants to spend time with him. And this is a way she can spend time with him, and also she feels like she's helping the cause. But she's once again pulled away by Crowther, where he's like, you were just an advocate for necromancy. You were like persona non grata around here. You cannot be seen near any of the Eternal Flame members, especially Luke, because they can't be seen being associated with you. And again, as much as I hate Crowther, and it felt like a shit move, it also does make sense.
Okay, I didn't love it though.
I didn't love it either, but also I'm like, well,
Like, maybe work on your delivery, homie.
Right.
Like, what? Like, I don't know.
I'm like, maybe he's not wrong, but like,
I'm like, she's
you're
also
just
doing a whole lot for you. Like, maybe give her a freaking minute.
right.
Whatever.
So she's out foraging in the outpost area she does this a lot for supplies to supplement the hospital, which I love that that the author kept this in from Manacled, because it really shows, at the time it was Hermione and now it's Helena, but it shows like her ingenuity and her intelligence and how she uses that to her advantage just in like problem solving, everyday things, simple things, because they're having such a huge shortage in the hospital. And like, this is the way she's like, hey, I can fill in some gaps and I can fix these things. And she's never one to just give up. She's like, oh, we're out of this. But she's like, I'll figure it out. So while she's out, she sees these Necrothals release a dog-like creature. Yeah, monster-esque thing.
Also, side note, don't y'all let me do a pot again, okay? I'm gonna be peeing all night. This is like my bajillionth cup of tea. Sorry, go ahead.
There are scientific experiments that they've known that the other side had been working on, but hadn't been successful with. How are you? Were you pronouncing it chimera?
I said chimera. Chimera.
Chimera. That's how I did it. But
So hurrying back to
gone. Pot is gone. I'm on my last cup.
your bladder gonna be full.
Go ahead.
So she's hurrying back to the checkpoint to get away from it, also to tell the others, and her ring burns twice. So she's like, well, crap. So she goes back to meet Kaine. He is kind of irritated that she already knows, because she like comes in and she's like, is this about the chimeras? Because like, I just saw one.
Well, wasn't she like annoyed with him? So that's why she brought it up or something?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, because she's like, I'm having to go through all this like stuff, you know. And
Oh,
I need to get
yeah.
back.
And like the mud.
Yeah, he wants to know how she saw it, and she explains that goes out to the Barrens and is searching for medical supplies, and he gets pretty upset that she's out there alone and she's like, well, I told you that's what I do. That's why I'm available at these times, is because I'm out doing this anyways. And he's like, I thought you were like meeting a smuggler. Like, I didn't think you were out here just like foraging by yourself. And
In a lot of ways, Farron is so out of touch with how the other side operates. Like, he is on the side that has everything and hasn't had to work like she has just to get medicine, just to get supplies.
Yes.
Like, he's the rich and she's the poor side, you know?
But he also has been kind of purposefully left in the dark on that too, I think.
Yeah. So he tries to tell her to tell Crowther to make her stop, that she can't do that anymore. And she stands up to him and she's like, no, absolutely not. It was like one of their rules from the get-go was he couldn't interfere with what she was doing, with the help that she was providing. And she feels like this is help she's providing. And she's like, I'm still doing it. And he's like, that's fine. You can do it. But I'm going to train you how to defend yourself, because your liability is how he frames it.
He didn't understand why their entire medical staff wasn't trained, you know? Like, he just doesn't get it. He's like, but why wouldn't you? And she's like, we don't have the resources, you know?
Yeah. And she's like, and for the most part, she feels like the hospital should be safe, so, or at least their people do. So, like, they're not going to train them.
It really shows you the differences in the sides. At least Farron's side, I feel like, is more prepared and more willing to do the worst thing possible, like target hospitals, you know. And I don't know if the rules of war apply to them. You know what I'm saying? There are just some things you just don't do in war.
This is why they're winning.
At the same time, I'm like, well, you know, Moreau's doing it. Like, I don't know. I don't understand how they're not prepared. Like, I can see this is going to be a disaster.
So once again, he's offering something that technically he can frame it as it's protecting himself, but he's also very much protecting her. She thinks that the training is just an excuse to get physical with her, and they start goading each other back and forth, kind of trying to verbally hurt one another, until Farron tries to call her bluff. And he tells her to strip. And while stripping, she realizes that he's just doing this to hurt her, and that he doesn't actually want her, because he's not aroused. He's not like into it. He's just being mean, basically. So she tells him that hurting others is the only way he can feel anything, because he's dead inside despite being immortal. I love your face. You're just like so irritated with your dog right now. You're like, what are you doing?
She's driving me nuts.
So he screams at her
get out.
To get out, which we've seen before. We saw that in the first part as well. When she goes into his room and he goes in her brain, and then afterwards he screams at her to get out. So we've seen that again previously.
You know, they just say hurtful things to each other. They just hurt each other's feelings all the time.
Oh, man, they can really verbally spar.
She has said some stuff, and I'm like, It's too far.
Both of them. Both of them are. I'm like, that's mean.
Cross.
They cross lines, but I think that they do that to try and like, I don't know. They want to push the other one away, but then they also are like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So in chapter 29, Helena runs back to Ilva and tells her about the chimeras. And Helena requests that she wants help processing the supplies that she brings back from the barons in case she's ever called away. She's afraid they're going to lose those supplies because they have to be processed pretty quickly. Otherwise, they're going to go bad. So she wants help with that. Ilva says that she has someone she thinks could help that she's going to send to her. Later, Helena replays what happened with Farron and realizes that no matter how angry he was at her, and she'd never seen anybody get that angry with her before, but he refused to hurt her, which shocked her because everything they know about the Undying is that they're just unimaginably cruel all of the time to everyone around them. They don't care who they are. They're cruel to each other. They will murder, hurt, anything that just for no reason. They don't even need a reason. And yet he was just so upset and angry with her and yet just made her leave instead of hurting her. So she starts to think that even though he is Undying, that maybe he's not like the others. And it's her first kind of glimpse of like, maybe there's more to him than we're kind of letting on. So then we head into chapter 30. And Helena submitted for and received a standard issue alchemical knife since all she had was like a foraging knife. And Kaine was like pretty insistent that she needed something else to defend herself. She goes to meet Farron and he's not there. She waits, pretty sure that she's been stood up and he's not going to show. And when she goes to leave, he finally arrives. She thinks that he might be mad at her for what happened. So she apologizes to him for her outburst. And he tells her that she is allowed to say no and tells her that next time just say no and maybe not provoke him. And I was like, that's kind of a cute exchange.
It was really cute. I like that. He was like, it's fine. Just like, maybe don't be as mean next time. It's like a nice way of being like, but just don't hurt my feelings.
Yeah. Like, that was really hurtful.
Like, so, no was a full sentence.
He didn't apologize. He's like, that's fine. He didn't apologize.
He didn't.
I'm like,
he didn't, but he did tell her. Because, like, he told her to strip, but that was his way of being like, you didn't have to. Like, you can just say no. And he's never going to force her.
I'm sorry I asked you to strip. That's all he had to say.
I love how it got quiet.
The reason is because he wasn't sorry at all asking her to strip.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't strike me as the kind of person that says what he does not mean.
Yeah.
But
and he's also, I don't feel like, well, I think he might have apologized once. I'm like, he's not a big apologizer. I'm just gonna.
Well, he did say, "I'm so sorry," right when she like.
Oh, when he had to put her under. So she tells him that she has a knife now. She's pretty proud of it.
Next beverage.
But you're gonna pee so much. So then, of course, he asks her if she's trained with it, and she's like, "Shit," because she's not.
Like, I just got it. What do you mean? Like, how much time do you think that she's got? Like, anyway.
He tells her that the chimeras are not doing well outside of the lab and that they don't tolerate the cold weather and are just sort of dying off. And then he gives her an envelope and leaves. Several visits are kind of the same. Just a few questions back and forth, an envelope, leaves. No training is happening. She gets her assistant, which is Shizio, which we only get a brief glimpse of in the first part, but he was there being kind of grilled by the High Necromancer. But I had to go back because I couldn't fully remember what was happening.
That was stuttering, right?
No, well, no, that's like the other one that's with him. But he only gets asked a few things because the High Necromancer's like, hey, you worked in their labs. And he was like, well, yeah, they would consult with me on a few like metallurgical whatever.
That's right.
And he's like, well, do you know her? And he looks at her and he's like, I think she was just some healer. And he pretends he doesn't know her. But now we're getting to see him and he's working directly with her. He is her assistant.
Mm-hmm. They're going to be friends.
And
so do you think that he said that in part one to protect himself or to protect her? Or both,
I don't know.
I guess.
I guess we're going to find out as we go through, because we get a little of him and we start to get a little more, but we don't get enough yet.
It seemed like he was working with the other side to an extent. You know, not that he was being tortured as much. I mean, you know, he wasn't a Necrothal or anything, so.
But again, we don't have any information, because I really want to believe that maybe he's a good guy, and so maybe when the war was lost, that he's doing a Farron. He's playing both sides.
I think so. I'm hoping that's the case. It's just weird because he wasn't punished to our knowledge.
You know, in Manacled, I don't know if this is gonna give too much away. You know, in Manacled, we had some like magical bomb making happening. And she had some help with that. And I'm kind of hoping maybe we have something similar happening with Shizio here. Because later he does start working in the lab.
Yeah. And I feel like it's leading
And he's like, I have some ideas.
And, you know, so Mateus is slowly pushing Helena out. Like, you know, because of her outburst, you know, she now has all of these new people coming in. And as you read through the chapters, there's more people that can do her job. Even Crowther has a new Vivimancer that's helping her, you know, him, actually.
And she is like
she's getting pushed out.
Wait till we meet Ivy.
Yeah, like that's her, yeah. Ivy, the new Vivimancer.
Which she talks about that. She's like, basically, like, there comes a point in this where she talks about that she has so much free time. She's like, oh, I can invest into another way to. She's never like, oh, I've got free time, I can do whatever. She's like, I can find another way to be useful. So she's always trying to put her time into that. Farron ends up late for another meeting. When he finally arrives, he's super injured, like just blood pouring off of him, and his whole there's like I don't know. They like are kind of like talking back and forth, and he's like, I'll be fine, I'm just missing an arm, and his arm is like ripped off. He was not kidding. There was no arm. He was just so chill about it.
It could grow back, but the bleeding, she had to stop the bleeding first in order for his body to regenerate his arm.
Do that regeneration. Yeah. She convinces him to let her help him, explains that, you know, I'm a healer, I can help. And so he's out of it enough, he kind of goes along with it. So she's able to stop the bleeding, and the body is able to regenerate. And it regenerates fast. He's got like a whole arm pretty quick. And then he teases her about ogling his body, because afterwards he's still kind of out of it, and she was fascinated by how fast he was regenerating, but then she's also just kind of like looking at his body and realizing that she's not really been around a lot of like semi-nude men, except when she's treating them. And so this is like the first time she's just like with one hanging out. And so he wakes up and he's teasing her about ogling his body. She then is a little mean. She's like, I'm not into boys.
She said that, and I was like, dang.
And you don't look fully grown. Which, again, he gets pretty visibly upset by the statement, and she tries to immediately apologize, but then turns around and asks him if being turned undying was a punishment for him. And he says that, you know, he does a Devil Wears Prada, everybody wants this.
Don't be ridiculous.
But then it very much comes across of like he doesn't mean
that's sarcastic.
Yeah. So
when she says sorry though, and he goes, your meaning was incredibly clear, I was like, you done cut him deep, girl.
Again. Call him a boy.
Again. Poor
I know.
Man.
She's like
humble
she's
in
like,
him.
oh, I've done it now. He's never gonna come back. And I'm like, why do you keep saying stuff? Like you're so, like you are bad at this. She's like, I'm gonna make him obsessed with me. How? By insulting his man.
Being mean as shit. You ain't never had a girl like me.
That's how it works, though. You know what? That's how it works on some girls too. You just treat them like crap, and then they're like, "Oh my god, I love you."
Like, don't you wish your girlfriend was mean
like me?
I'm like, Anyway.
This episode's going off the rails. So back at headquarters, Lila tells her that this is where we really get a glimpse of the one person I feel like has a head on their shoulders within the internal flame, other than Helena, because Lila tells her that she feels like being a healer is worse, and being in the hospitals is worse than being in the battlefield, because they never get a break. And so like when they're on the battlefield, they see when they win, they get those highs of like, we're winning, we're, things are happening, we're progressing. The hospital doesn't see that. Every battle looks like a loss when all you see are the dead and the injured flowing in. No matter how successful it was, all you see is the catastrophic side of it and what is incurring. And while she tells her she doesn't agree with using the necromancy, she tells her she completely understands why she would want to. And she doesn't hold it against her. Loved Lila for that.
Same.
Then we have chapter 31, and Farron's next meeting is met with him immediately attacking her for defense training. Like, she comes in the door and he's coming at her. She's upset because he's hurting her. Like, he ain't messing around, and he's hurting her hands, which is what she's most upset about because she needs those for healing. And he's just mad that she's not fighting back. She's like, you're hurting my hands. He's like, then do something. She has to hide her injuries and her bruises, and so she covers herself in mud, claiming that she fell in the marsh because she knows it's going to raise questions. Crowther brings in Ivy, which is our first glimpse of Ivy. I don't know what to make of Ivy.
She's crazy.
Because here's the thing. Well,
she's
crazy.
Here's the thing. She's 14 years old. Like, she's described as 14, maybe 15 tops. She is a child. Okay? So even though we're going to see more of her later, and I don't agree with what she's doing, something has happened to this child.
Well, she is crazy.
So he brings in this she's a vivimancer, just like Helena is, and brings her in to heal Helena's hands. And he sets Helena up with a safe house to go to if she's ever injured again. So she can go there. If she doesn't show back up at headquarters, they know to look for her there and help her. So she doesn't come back and have questions, and she doesn't feel like she needs to hide.
Which is cool, but honestly, the exchange I didn't love.
Well, he's not exactly got the best bedside manner.
It just came off as very like,
don't be a problem for us.
Right. Like, right. Versus like, oh my gosh, like, let's make sure that we get you help. Like,
he's not a snuggly guy.
It gave off very like, we don't want you to get mud on the marble. Like, it just, I don't
Well, I felt like it was more like, yeah, like, I mean, yes, it does ultimately, it does help her, but also is very much because they're doing this very under the table. They don't want anybody knowing about it. They want zero questions. They want to be able, this is a Jason Bourne, we're going to disavow you, pretend you didn't exist situation. And that's what he's trying to set up, is that they can just pretend that never happened. So Farron is again late the next week. But when she asks if they are training, he says that he will not do that to her again. And he did not mean to hurt her. In which she says, I always expected you would. This girl is just out here wielding words like weapons, man. She's so mean sometimes.
Doesn't need a weapon. What comes out of her mouth just cuts. It just cuts.
It cuts deep. I was hurting for Farron. I'm like, dang, girl.
It's like, girl, listen, okay? Hurt people. Like,
hurt people.
So he gives her information on a food supply storage that they're to raid, and then tells her that she's too scrawny, and to tell Crowther once they get the food supplies that her rations are to be doubled. Per his.
He's over here like, thank you for the insult. Go eat more. Like,
right. Let's take care of you, girl.
Like,
he's so a chimera is brought back to headquarters that's dead, and she's asked to dissect it. During that time, this is where she offers Shizio to use her lab and work in her lab. At first, he's kind of like hesitant about it, and then she encourages him and is basically telling him, like, I know you had some projects you wanted to do, like, feel free. There's no oversight, like, you can just do whatever. And he's like, perhaps there are a few things that he could use it for. And I'm excited to learn what those are. I don't know what those are yet. They don't get into them. But I feel like he's going to be an important player later, and whatever he's cooking up in that lab. Per Farron's instructions, Helena starts working out and using calisthenics. I don't know about y'all, but all I can picture is like some middle school calisthenics happening. Like she's just out there jumping jacking it.
Push ups.
Doing some push-ups.
Pull ups. She's got a
sit-ups.
Sit-ups. Oh, yeah.
So which it's like the only thing that, like, I understand working out is working out no matter what you're in, even in a fantasy book. This happened in Silver Flames too, where they kept doing like planks and like workouts, and I'm just like, it's not giving fantasy. I don't know why.
A burpee in a fantasy book.
Even him saying calisthenics, I'm like, okay.
His visits become really sporadic, but he does show up and tell her the High Necromancer is going out of the country and taking a ton of the Undying with him. And so basically now is the time for them to attack. And then he tells her to skip the next several weeks' meetings because he doesn't expect to make it. A homegirl did not pick up on that either. It just went right over her head. I'm like, girl, he's saying he's going to die in this. And you're over there worried about if it's a trap. Sometimes she's real smart, but sometimes she's real dumb too. I'm like, girl.
Well, especially because then later on he was like, you knew that this was going to happen.
Right.
And she was like...
He straight up told her he's basically sacrificing himself for the cause as much as she is. And she's over there just, it's a trap. I've set everybody up. So anyway, so she goes back. She tells everybody they gear up to do this full-scale assault. She is in the hospital and she's just berating herself because she's like, it was a trap. It was a trap. Because all she sees are the dead and the injured just just overflowing the hospital. She is using all of her vivimancy, just working herself ragged to the bone, healing. But then she learns that despite the mass casualties, that they had taken back most of the island, and it was a huge success. And so then rumors start circulating that Moreau is returned, and there was mass upheaval amongst his ranks as they were trying to assign blame for losing a huge chunk of the territory that they had. And then the counterattacks start. So again, she's back in the hospital, healing all these people that are coming in from the counterattacks. And even though these counterattacks aren't super successful, they're damaging. You know, she's seeing the casualties from it. So Helena starts to resume her old schedule and starts going out to collect supplies and forage. And she decides it's been a bit, so she should check in and see if Farron has like left a message for her. When she gets there, he's there and he looks like shit. Like I think she describes him as looking basically like death. I think she asks him if he's dead.
He looked like a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
I follow along.
Yeah.
I'm very studious.
She discovers he's not just injured, that he is practically dead. He's dying over and over, and then his body is like recovering, and then it dies, and then it's recovering, and it's just on this endless cycle, and it's ultimately going to kill him. Like he's not going to be able to recover from this the way he is, and it's a punishment since he was in charge of one of these major outposts. It was like a recent promotion for him.
He botched it.
Basically. So he took the blame for this happening. His entire back is just like this giant rotting wound, is I think how she described it. And there's an alchemical array carved into the skin and the bone. And it's an 8-pointed symbol, which each of those 8 points, she's able to read the engravings and what they have a meaning. And so it's calculating, cunning, devoted, determined, ruthless, unfailing, unhesitating, and unyielding. We'll talk about it here shortly, but you don't know it now, but Farron picked those because he made this. But so like memorize those traits because he picked those himself because those are the ones he wanted to keep. And because Helena figures out that if this worked, it would erase Farron down. Everything that's left of him, all that's left are these 8 traits. That's what you're going to get. And so he's told if he survived, he would be forgiven. But he doesn't expect to survive. She can't heal it, but she feels like the wounds are the biggest issue at the moment. So she starts treating the wounds because she knows how to treat those. She's unable to close them, so she's just kind of like cleaning them and trying to fix the worst of it. And she tells him that she can come every day and treat him and bandage his change his bandages out, which he doesn't understand why she's willing to do that for him, but he reluctantly agrees. And this is at this point she starts telling him she's going to call him, like she starts calling him Kaine, and there's some significance to that because the whole time she always refers to him as Farron. And I feel like that's her starting to see him as a person. And,
versus a mission.
Mm-hmm. And not just an undying. Like
She also massages his hands.
She does massage.
And his fingers.
So in chapter 33, she's met with a Necrothal on her way to meet Farron and realizes that it's one of his. The Necrothal leads her to a different area to meet, which she finds is way more homey and luxurious. The other place was just this very barren, abandoned factory. And this new area that she's led to is like
pretty opulent.
Yes. Couches and rugs and chandeliers. Helena realized that wearing the amulet, that Holdfast crest, seemed to always be helping her when she wore it, that she didn't feel so tired. It seemed to give her some kind of strength. And she thought that maybe if Farron would wear it, it might do the same for him. It might just help him through. But she knows he would never wear the Holdfast crest. So she's like, maybe I can manipulate it into something really plain and normal looking. But she's not very good with gold alchemy. So as she's trying to manipulate it, she ends up breaking it. And inside is a liquid metal like quicksilver that's just humming with energy. She picks it up and decides to like try to put it in Farron, which works. It like goes into his heart. Other than that, it makes his body glow for a minute, but then it seems to absorb it, and then she can't really tell a big difference at all immediately. She's just like, okay. She comes back every night. Farron tries to give her what information he can, but he's being really kept out of the loop a lot. When he admits the High Necromancer wanted somebody from the prison, I think. She asks why the Undying just can't go get him. He reveals the Undying can't go because they're bound to him. And Helena asks if the Undying are basically Necrothals. And Kaine says that kind of, in a way, they are, but different.
A guard from one of Hevgoss's prison complexes.
Yeah. And so Moreau, to make the Undying, what Moreau is doing is he's like using pieces of himself, like he's using pieces of his bone to create the Undying. So he's giving them a piece of him, and then the Undying give them all of themselves. So in that way, if you kill all the Undying, you're killing Moreau. So in chapter 34, when she shows up, she starts to see some streaks of silver show up in Kaine's hair. So you're starting to see some of the physical changes starting to happen.
Explains his different appearance now. So we have that question answered.
Yes. And it's shockingly the same color as the stones she put inside of him. But also, you start to see a little bit of a shift just in him as well, and how he is and how he interacts with her. So,
and he starts to look like a grown-up.
Yes. He starts to change, not just like he's changing, like he's aging. So he's been giving a chimera and told to tame it. he knows this is a test that more than likely is set up to fail. He asked her what she would do if she was in his position. She says that she would make it loyal to her. And he asked what she would do if she couldn't make it loyal. And she admits that she would use her resonance to... They can't kill it outright because then they would get in trouble. Like, because it's a gift. You know, you can't kill the gift that you were given. So she's like, I would use my resonance and just speed up the process. You know, cutting corners. He's like kind of taken with how clever she is. And then at the end, she says, don't die, Marino. I might miss you.
It kind of makes you wonder if that was a double-sided question. Like, hey, you're given this thing. How would you get rid of it? Basically, he is something that she never asked for. He's the gift. If you don't want it, what would you do? Well, I would make him loyal, right? That's one of her goals. Maybe not necessarily loyal, but that's what she's doing. She's making Kaine loyal. And if you can't do that, which again, he's probably thinking in his head, I'll never be loyal, but of course we know he is. But you know, how would you get around that? So yeah, she's answering for the Chimera, but at the same time, she could be answering about him too. You know?
Well, and I think in another way too, it's showing that he's starting to respect her brain and her opinions and is willing to listen to her. Where when he first met her, there wasn't a lot of that. It was very much he was going to use her, and now it feels a little more teamworky. So a scout comes back to the headquarters that had been missing for several weeks, and it's kind of revealed that like scouts don't last long. They're just like pretty much killed off pretty quick. So for her to come back, they suspect her of probably being a Neanderthal or a leech or something along those lines. So Helena's kind of tasked with testing her for that. She says the scout is claiming that she had been a test subject in the lab, and she does eventually die from all of the stuff that had happened to her. And they tell Helena to do an autopsy on her, which she was pretty upset about. She did not want to do this autopsy. It's like the next day she's supposed to do the autopsy. So she leaves at night. She goes to meet Kaine to treat him. But he wants to train her before she leaves. He has like several Neanderthals kind of attack her or like creep towards her and tells her to use her vivimancy to protect herself. She keeps telling him she doesn't want to fight. And he yells at her that it's a war and she doesn't get what she wants. She only gets to live or die. She ends up like panicking, screams, shoves out her hands. And then basically all I can envision is that she has just vaporized these Neanderthals, because it's like, it just kind of sounds like it's just like suddenly there's just
guts everywhere.
Dust. So my favorite part though was Kaine's reaction was like, what the fuck, Marino? And then she's like, I told you I didn't want to fight. And he was like, maybe I slightly underestimated you.
She's got more than what she's pretending.
She's got more power than what he thought she did. He has her take a shower and get cleaned up, and he gives her clean clothes. Then he gives her some alcohol, kind of like take the edge off of her nerves. They talk about how she found out she was a vivimancer, and she kind of is like evading it, but she's telling him it didn't happen until later, and he's picking up that it was like a traumatic event that caused it and wants to know what set her off like a bomb. And that's what he's like equating her to. And she admits that there was the massacres that happened at the beginning of the war in the hospital, and that her father, who was a surgeon, had been working in the hospital, and that was her idea because she thought the hospitals would be safe. Her father was killed, and she apparently like lost it. Farron admits that he designed that array and that punishment that he had on his back, and that he did expect to die, but he said that if he was going to survive, that he wanted to choose what he would become. So he asked to make it and claimed it was proof of his penance, but really it was so he could have some control. We go into chapter 35. She comes into the autopsy a little hungover. She gives her report that it was an unsuccessful attempt to neutralize resonance. This is where Matthias is a whole asshole. He tries to get her to say why they would do that. And she's like, I don't know why they would do that. And she was like, and Matthias is like, well, you're like them, so you would know why. And she's just like, I don't know why. And they keep grilling her on it. Crowther actually jumps in. This is one of the times I like Crowther, because he jumps in and he answers for her, and he's just like very bare bones about it. He's like, it's to control the prisoners. Like, that's what it's for. Crowther tells her that Matthias wants her gone and is taking steps to make that happen. And while Crowther was like kind to her in that like single moment, he also seems super uninterested in protecting her and seems to be viewing her as like a failed mission. Because he just thinks that she's wasting her time healing Farron, wasting hospital resources. She hasn't made Farron obsessed with her yet. Like, none of the things.
What gets me about that is that, like, all of their successes, though, are because of them.
Because of what Farron's giving them, the information he's providing. So back off, Crowther.
It just doesn't make any sense.
She argues with him that while he's not obsessed with her, he's learning to trust her, and he's becoming loyal to her. And he tells her that she doesn't understand what a grave mistake she has made, if that's true, and she better hope that it's not. Because once Farron sees her as his, he will never let her go, nor will he be content to be second to anyone.
He was never going to. That was the whole point.
Yeah, which in his mind includes Luke, the eternal flame. You know? Yes, I understand. In Crowther's mind, he's thinking obsession. He can control that. And he can't control if he's... But, like, I don't know. It's a weird line. It's this weird line he's drawn. And I was like, they kind of...
You can have her now and forever, but you can't.
But you can't love her. I can't breathe. Ugh.
Tis the season for sniffles.
I need my nasal spray. So, she treats Farron again. She asks if Moreau is looking... Okay, so this is the one part I was like, is this important? So she asks if Moreau is looking for the Stone of the Heavens. And that is the only mention we get of this.
Yeah.
Is that what she had?
Too.
There's no way. They wouldn't give that to her.
Right. Like, I'm so confused. I'm like, is that
like
what
we
she had?
see it? Unless it pops up later.
It might show up later, maybe, but like, there's no way that Ilva would have just given this foreigner chick.
We're not.
I
mean, it was in that necklace.
Important.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't know.
I don't know. It was.
But doesn't everyone get something like that? Didn't like all of them have
All of the Eternal Flame and Paladins got an amulet to show
Unless it's pieces of it.
Maybe? I don't know. I feel like it's gonna. I wrote it down because I felt like it's gonna come back up. Because I'm like, why are we mentioning this?
And then she does this
and it's
whole,
very
side quest on the gods themselves.
It's very disregarded by Farron. Farron's just like,
that's
kind of, yeah, like that's dumb. It doesn't even exist. Why would he do that? And then she's like, well, maybe he believes that the gods might have made it and it's worth looking into. And then Farron kind of makes fun of her for believing in the gods, and she asks if he doesn't, and he's like, no, like not even a little bit.
Yeah, like didn't Farron say like Luke doesn't even believe either, or at least not in the stone per se. But
yeah. So then in chapter 36, she's packing her lab up to go heal Kaine again. Luke finds her and is kind of, I don't know, he's asking a lot of questions. At this point, I'm like, Luke, go away. She's got shit to do. Like, yeah, and she's just trying to leave, but like also he can't know what she's doing, so she's trying to be like not obvious about it, but also she's like, leave.
I feel like this is one of the differences between Manacled and Alchemized, because I feel like in Manacled, she was the one being like, hey, Luke, let's do stuff. Can we hang out? That kind of thing. And he was like basically saying no. Him and not Luke, but Harry and Ron were basically like, we can't, we've got important stuff to do. You don't understand because you're not on the front lines. As where this
They
one,
were smoking and drinking and upset all the time and very moody.
she just wanted to hang out, but they were being very moody, like you said, and just, I felt like they were blowing Hermione off. As where in Alchemized, Helena is the one that's being like, no, I can't be with you. I can't talk to you. I can't do anything with you. And so Luke is the
But
one.
she desperately wants to. Like, she wants to spend time with them. She's very lonely, but she also knows, again, this is where it's like, I would do anything for you, and that anything means to even isolate myself from you.
And I feel like that's just one of the differences. I feel like it was the other way around in Manacled. And I could be wrong. It's just that I just felt like that part was a little different. I felt like it was the other way. Because I remember kind of hating Harry and Ron.
I got very annoyed by Harry and Ron.
So she ends up getting really delayed to go see Kaine. When she gets there, she's able to close the wound. Kaine needs to be awake during this process. So he ends up, it's really painful. So he's drinking a lot. They get done late. She's super exhausted. She tries to hurry up and leave because the checkpoints are going to close. But he wants to have her stay and have a drink in celebration because, like, hey, he thought he was going to die and he's healed and he's feeling pretty good about it. And he's a little drunk already. And he said, he's like, stay. Something about you inspires the most terrible decisions in me. So she decides to stay and have a drink. And in chapter 37, they both get very drunk. He calls her, he says she's like a rose in a graveyard.
Very sweet.
And I think you're starting, now he's drunk, right? I think you're starting to see, these are not him playing games. These are not messing with her mind. This is him. This is how he feels about her and how he views her. So she's massaging his hands because she's just trying to do something. And he asks her why she does that because she'd done it a bunch while he was being healed and things like that. So, and she explains that her father used to do it for her, that he was a surgeon and the surgeons take care of their hands. And he felt like alchemists were like surgeons in a way, and that they should take care of their hands. And so, it also for her, he would always do that. And it made her feel not alone and not lonely. And so she was kind of like giving that to Farron as well. He asked her to take her hair down because she always keeps it in these like tight braids. She does that for two reasons. One is her hair is really curly and big and a little wild, and it's considered foreign hair. It's not normal for that area. So she's kind of trying to hide it. It also is practical, of course, for like a hospital setting to keep it up and out of the way. But mainly, I feel like it's her trying to hide her differences. And he wants to see it. And then he starts to run his hands through it. He's kind of talking about how soft it is and how long it is and how beautiful it is. And then he says, if you don't want me to kiss you, you should say so now. Which she does not disagree. Like, she does not say no.
He kisses him, right?
Yeah.
She actually goes for it.
But then while kissing, she gets very in her head. And is just.
And he can tell.
Yeah. And then she suddenly thinks that none of this makes sense. He couldn't want her. Like, why would he want her? He's just drunk and he's no longer injured and he needs a release. And he doesn't actually want her. And she starts to feel really ashamed. And he senses that and goes really still and tells her it's time to go. And she starts crying. So then we're into chapter 38. She starts crying. The checkpoints are closed. She can't go. He asks why she's crying. And she says that she's lonely and he doesn't even like her. And he's like, then why did you kiss me? And she said, it's because you made me feel like the parts of me that aren't useful still deserve to exist. Like I'm not just all the things that I can do. And that one tore me up just a little bit. Because isn't that what we just want to be seen? Like we want to be loved for who we are. So.
And then they fell asleep.
And then they woke up and they were tangled in one another because you can't have a falling asleep on the couch moment without getting tangled up with one another. I'm sorry.
It just can't happen, honestly.
She rushes back to headquarters the next morning. Hair still down, disheveled. Soren runs into her. And this is where I wrote that he's an asshole because he mentions that her hair is down and loose. And, she makes some excuse she ran into some brambles or whatever. And he goes, oh, it's pretty when it's braided.
I forgot your hair looked like that. It's pretty the way you braid it now.
Yeah.
I read that and I was like,
I'm like,
I don't care for that.
Yeah, I was like, what an asshole thing to say.
I'm like, I thought
That'd be like seeing a girl without makeup and being like, you're pretty when you have your makeup on.
I have been told that and it does hurt.
That's vain.
It was a family member.
I think I know who.
I know.
Anywho. Just people saying mean shit. You can tell it affects her because she immediately showers, and then the first thing she does is she puts her hair in the tightest braids it's ever been in. Just not a strand loose. Crowther then sends for her. She's brought down to these like prison cells that are underneath everything. And she finds Lancaster tied up, which again, we met Lancaster in part 1, and he was oddly obsessed with her, and we weren't sure why. To the point that then he tried to like drag her away, in which Farron disemboweled him in the best way. But you find out why he was so obsessed, because down there, Ivy and Crowther have just been flaying him. Like, well, I think it's Ivy's flaying him from the inside out with her vivimancy, and then Crowther's questioning him. And she's brought in to just heal him so Ivy can do it again. And they can repeat this process.
Which is horrible.
Over and over and over. So she's called in 2 more times to repeat this process after the original time. And while they're waiting to see if they need to do it another time, Helena is sitting out, Crowther's in there questioning him. She's sitting outside with Ivy. She tells Ivy, you don't have to torture them to get what you want out of them. And Ivy tells her, but she likes doing it. But again, which you're like, oh my God, Ivy's duh. But then like also, she's like a 14-year-old girl. And then she asks about her sister. She asks if there's a way to hide memories. But she asks about if there's a way to hide memories. And when Helena asks her about that, she says it's for her sister. And she says that she doesn't remember things. But if she ever did, it would be worse than what is happening right now. And so I feel like her sister was tortured or something happened to her.
I feel like
something
it's big foreshadowing of her sister not remembering things, and she's a vivimancer. But I think the losing her memories as well, like, that's going to be big foreshadowing. Like, compared to Manacle, by the way.
Yeah. So in the final time healing Lancaster, you realize all the torture, he's lost his mind a little bit. He can't differentiate between Ivy and Helena. They've kind of become one person. So he's constantly, as she's trying to heal him, he's telling her all the things when he gets free. What's going to happen? That he's going to put her on a chain and she's going to be a pet and all these unspeakable things that he is going to do to her. Which then, again, you get that what was happening in part 1 with him. It all starts to come together and make sense. Crowther tries to tell her that, oh, that'll never happen. I've never let any of my prisoners escape. And you're like, well, I hate to tell you, buddy. So then in chapter 39, Helena goes back to the outpost, but a Necrothal with the key never shows. And it's the same the next night and the next night. So she goes back to foraging and she runs into a Necrothal that was Farron's, and the Necrothal gives her an envelope. She rips it open thinking it's a message for her, but it's not. It's just another coded message. Each time she goes back, this is all that's happening for like a month. All she gets is just Necrothal. She's just used as a missive. Necrothals are handing her the message. She's just running it back and forth. Which she's a little upset by. She starts, because of this, she feels useless. After an attack, the hospital's flooded with a ton of injured. She ends up using all of her residents and burning out, which has not happened to her before. She then has to go to a meetup, and she's going out to do the meetup, and she runs into not one, but 4 Necrothals and realizes those are not Farron's Necrothals, and she's attacked. She is able to fend them off and fight them off, but she ends up with a spike through her leg, like a giant metal spike through her leg, and she drags and limps her way over to where they usually meet up. But she doesn't have a key, and she doesn't have any resonance to open the door. So she doesn't have any resonance to heal herself. So she just collapses kind of in that corridor. And Farron shows up and finds her, and he kind of thinks he's kind of a dick to her, because he thinks it's a trick that Crowther's pulling. And he tells her to get up, and she's like, well, I'm just waiting for my resonance to come back to fix it. You can see he's panicked, like he's kind of freaking out that she doesn't have her resonance. Yeah. Says that he can heal her, which she doesn't believe, but she ends up talking him through it, and he does heal her leg, and he does a dang good job. She turns to leave, and the door unlocks, and she thinks he's right behind her, but when she turns, she realizes he's all the way across the room, which, we've talked about before, where, like, apparently resonance isn't supposed to travel. Like, they're not supposed to be able to use it as a distance. And so, again, you're getting this glimpse of Farron can very much use his resonance at a distance, because he unlocked that door,
which we saw in part
1 with the house. So then we go into chapter 40, and despite the danger with the Necrothals, Helena returns again. There's no missives, and she goes to leave, and her ring burns. And so Farron comes, he asks her about her burnout and the toll, if she knows about the toll, and is kind of like quizzing her on why she's sacrificing herself. And she explains that, like, some of her motivation, and some of that comes from, like, she feels like she killed her mother because she had this vivimancy, and it's like a corruption of resonance, and it was like stealing her mother's vitality, and so she killed her mother. So then he, like, reaches into her with his resonance and tries to take her vitality, and it immediately rejects and, like, bounces back, and she has a very physical reaction. And then he tries to get her to do the same to him, which she eventually does. And he's doing this, he, like, pretty much explains that, like, it can't be taken by force. Vitality can never be taken by force like that. It has to be freely given. And he's trying to, like, explain to her that she didn't kill her mother, and that was not her fault, and to alleviate her of some of that guilt. But then after that, he ends up opening the door to a Necrothal, and he holds her still, and instead of having her do what she did before, which was basically just freak out and, like, vaporize everybody, he wants her to take the vitality from the Necrothals, because you can take them from the Necrothals. That's how you can kill them. And he coaches her through it. And not only does it kill the Necrothal, but she's able to, like, use that vitality. And he tells her that basically he's hoping it'll keep the toll at bay. So once again, this is a time where, like, all the other times you can be like, well, it also helps him, it protects him. None of this helps him. This is all strictly for her. When she says she didn't realize that Vivimancers could do that, he then casually is like, oh no, only Animancers can.
Which I thought was just a fun little, like, bloop.
They end up working on combat forms, because, again, he's back to, like, I need to train you, you need to be able to defend yourself. But he's pretty aggressive with her. And she starts calling him Farron again, and he's, like, back to surnames, I see.
Maybe he wanted. Maybe he's trying and, like, keep her at bay. I don't know.
Keep her at a distance. Yeah, but then they get in a little bit of a fight, and she tells him he's a terrible teacher, and then she leaves. And that is the end of our chapters for this time. I was telling my husband, because I was working on this, and it takes me a hot minute to do the recap on these. And I was like significantly longer than any other book we've done. And we've done some longer books. Direbound was a thick boy. We've done, some books that, like, I felt like Night in the Moth wasn't, like, heavy, but, like, there was a lot of heavier themes that were being covered, and it was, there was a lot of depth to it, and yet none of them, I was, like, trying to explain to him, I'm like, there's there's no part of this that doesn't feel interconnected to another part. It's so hard to pick out. I can't, there's no part to skim through.
They're reading twice as much too. So, and you can't really, it's hard to cherry pick, you know? Everything is interconnected.
Everything's important.
Yeah, everything's important.
Everything's important. And all these moments are so
precious.
Right. They're just like, they have, even the moments between them, even the banter, it has so much depth and feeling behind it. And every bit of it evokes some sort of emotion when you're reading it. It's not just, I mean, some people have said it's like dark romantasy or it's dark romance. And I don't want to, and some people I've even heard say it's not romance at all.
It's a dark book and it is a romance, but the romance is not dark.
Yeah.
I mean, like
it is dark, but it's dark in a very different way than what we usually get. When you get dark romance, you think like mafia and like morally gray. And
and like really like kind of like darker like sexual themes. Like there's no like it. I feel like it's incredibly intimate in its.
And while the romance you could portion. Probably lump Kaine Farron into morally gray, I don't. I lump him into put in a shitty situation and broken.
Yeah.
And is just trying to like do the best he can, right? Yeah. And also neither one of them believe, like you very much feel neither one of these people believe they are a person to be loved, like they deserve love, and then they find each other and they're seeing each other, and I don't know, just a lot more emotionally depth than a lot of the other like dark romantasies and dark romances that you would typically read.
A lot of your darkness is coming from like
the war,
the war.
And the situations they're put in and the decisions they have to make. So next week we're covering chapters 41 through 60. Is that right?
You want to do 61?
You're getting ambitious, girly.
I have it marked at 61, but we can. And then it'll just go, and then the next set we would just go through to the end.
Yeah. Is there significance to wanting to read through 61? Or is that what... Oh, okay.
There'll be less to read, though, at the tail end. And we got to think about that, because we're going to have time to do our rating. And right now, we have no time for anything.
Yeah. So let's do that. So this next week, we're going to do chapters 41 through 61, listeners. Okay. So just read an extra chapter. And so it'll end on page 778 if you're in a physical copy. Yeah, and that will give us a little less reading for the final chapters, so it'll give us a little more time to kind of talk about our overall thoughts and star rating and reviews. And unless something tragically falls off the cliff at the end of this book, this is a top read for me. Not even of this year. This will be a top read for me of all time.
Yeah.
It will be in my...
You know, even if we read
that top of the pyramid
through 61, it would still be chapters 62 to 78 plus the epilogue.
It works out.
I just want to let you know. Because this book overall gets mixed reviews. I'm personally loving it. I love the depth that is put into it. I love the questions that it brings to mind. Just the morally gray questions, not everything so black and white all the time, you know? I love the content, but I feel like people pick this book up not realizing that it may challenge their beliefs and why they believe what they believe, and questioning, just how they would handle situations like this and war and violence, and, it's very heavy. And I think a lot of people that rate it low, or even, there's been things where I've seen people will get through like all the way to page 1,000, and they're like, you know what, I'm just not going to read the end. And I'm like,
I don't see how you do
I know, and
that.
I'm like, I don't know why you picked this book up to begin with, you know. Um, and I just wonder if it's people that are looking for something specific, and then this heaviness is brought upon them, and they're like, you know what? I'm just going to stop right here after reading 80-90% of the book, and,
Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit where it's like some people are struggling with the world building. Also seeing, I feel like some of that might be, there was a little section at the very beginning where I felt like you just had to power through. Just keep chugging.
I can agree with that. The world building, if you're not used to it, it can be a little rough. But once you get through that, though, I'm like, it doesn't harp on the world building as much. You're learning
No.
about the characters.
Once you get the
Mm-hmm.
basics, you've got it. Just keep
And
going.
I feel like some people are probably expecting something that's like primarily romance and like maybe like a
Yes.
typically developing romance, whereas this one is not
This
necessarily that. And like if you're just
low.
a sole romance reader, then it might fall flat.
Mhm.
Like if you go
Yeah.
into it thinking like this is like a Hermione fanfic, and then like you read it and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like some people might just be
Yeah, and I
reading
have
it
seen people say
expecting
that they
something.
did not like the themes. They found them kind of triggering, and
And
very
that's
much.
legit.
This is
That's
a
legit.
this is a dark book, not in a fun
Yes.
dark way. This
This is
isn't like
not your
a
lights out.
we're serial killers that kill the
Yeah.
bad
Yeah.
guys, and then have really fun sex in the
This
on
is
the side.
not it.
Like this isn't like my masked boyfriend chases me through the woods. This is reality in fantasy. Like this is like the realities of
Beautiful
war.
literature too. Like it's
Yeah.
just oh.
And some people have said that they don't like her writing style. I love her writing style. I feel like it's easy to read while still carrying all of that emotional depth that makes you feel all these things. But
Beautifully done.
without being heavy on the prose. Like it's very simply told, but has this huge impact.
Mix.
And it
It's not too heavily in the prose, and it's not too dumbed down.
honestly, a lot of the most beautiful lines are the lines that Helena and Farron are saying to
Right.
each other.
Agreed.
When I was reading Manacled, there were some times where I felt like, okay, I get it. You feel this way. You know what I mean? Like it was almost repetitive or kind of drawn out.
Yeah.
I don't,
There was
yeah,
a ton of I will say, so one of our listeners has said that they didn't mind having a Manacled versus Alchemized like comparison done. And I'll say, so one of the big things I did not love in Manacled was the back and forth constantly. And there was like the bounce back at the beginning of the chapter. You get like a flashback, and then you get the present, and then you get the flashback, and then you get the present. And it became very repetitive in a lot of it. You were getting the same information over and over. Sometimes you get the same scene multiple times. So you got a lot of repetition. Now, granted, like this was published, I don't know how they did it when they published it through AO3, if it was serialized or if she just dumped it. But
dumped it. I feel like she wrote it and was like, boom, here you go, world.
so
there was no editor, essentially.
yeah. So, you saw, even though like it was fantastic,
But she would put no.
but you could see the laugh.
Yeah, like in AO3, she could be
Here-
like, here's my thought processes. Here's, I don't know that she actually edited, had an editor. I don't know that she actually
But like,
did that.
so for this, you can definitely see, that it was edited down. You're losing a lot of the repetitiveness that sort of made it drag, and things like that. I also really like that we've done this part 1, which is her without the memories, and then you get the flashback, and it's all lumped together in one. I like that better than how it was done in Manacled with the flashing back and forth, because that was a bit jarring sometimes. You're not getting like the little snippets like you were in Manacled, where you're seeing like the two things start to overlap until you hit part 2, but then now you're getting all of that, and I think it just makes it a little bit easier to follow.
I like it so far.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. So we will see everybody next week. Chapters 41 through 61. Read next chapter. And thank Elizabeth for that. And we'll see.
Let's read more. Let's just do it. Let's read it in a month. Read each chapter.
Yeah, it will be.
This is how she is when we work out too. She's like, just do it faster. Just do another set. Add
Like,
more weights. But all right, everybody, we will see you next week. Bye.